are we going to say avoid, don't avoid, or we just open right up with it right now and just get it right off the top? And let's talk about the DC 10-year plan announcement, the canceling of the Batgirl movie. Do we avoid that? Do we avoid that beautiful post that Andrew put on Facebook about the possible death of Scott Lang in Quantumania? Um, I think I
That's
would just say,
such a that one's so out there that it's literally just an image. I don't know how much I buy that yet. Um,
I think it would be cool. I voted for it. I'm like, fuck it, take him out.
you
I'm
know,
like, I'm ready for it. It's not like they won't kill the mega star of the universe. I don't want them to do it like this is what I commented on everything. I don't want it to be like I am Ant-Man. I don't want it to be one of those moments. I want him to be like fucking killed in battle. Like he can have a dramatic like slip away kind of death in somebody's arms. It doesn't have to be, like his head gets blown off and there's just a charred ant husk left. But like kill somebody. Do it. Like just do
and the
it.
whole thing about fighting with Kang, right? Kang is a time traveler and a
Yeah.
multiversal and all this shit. So you could kill anybody and bring them back later because Kangness. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I get it. I'm totally down for the dramatic, move for the impact, blah, 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 whatever. I just don't know if we need it. I don't know if after Endgame you need to kill off a major character. Like I said in the comments that I left, I could see them trapping him somewhere and kind of abandoning him, but flat out killing him off seems harsh, even for the MCU. I don't know. We'll see.
and
I mean, they
and I
killed a
get
couple of
that,
dudes in Eternals, so
right? Well,
And
but
I
that's
think
the
they
thing.
killed the wrong ones. Like I feel
Oh, I'll
like
give you that.
it's like why would you kill Icarus? Or I think his name was Icarus, I think. And then why would you kill like
Icarus made sense to me, but the other guy,
the Wong brother or whatever? Like I'm such an asshole. I forgot his name. Was it Ajax or Hector or some shit?
no, something with a B. It's I always
But
think
the strong
Bismarck,
guy
but it's not
in the
Bismarck,
forest
but it's
who was
something with a
like
B.
taking care of Psycho Bitch. Like,
Yeah.
Bartolome. No, I know exactly. I thought the same thing. I was like,
why'd you
no.
kill him? What a fucking waste.
Well,
Yeah.
the whole thing is too, they're all basically machines, right? Like they're not, but they are. Like they were created repeatedly. So in theory, they could bring them back too. From the celestial factory or whatever the fuck it is. So nobody. I feel like right now the only people that are dead to us is Cap and Iron Man. Like
Wait,
even the people that we've seen die.
Even though Cap's not dead, he's dead in terms
But
of
he's dead
activity.
in terms of storylines. They're never going to do another Chris Evans Captain America. Like he is done. You'll get
I think
Cap
he'll make a
with Anthony
cameo.
Mackie. I don't think so.
No, I could
I
see
don't
him
think
doing
so.
just a cameo, not even as in like just at some point, like with Anthony Mackie again. Like we see an old Cap at Scott Lang's funeral.
I don't think so. I think Chris Evans is done, and not for any negative reason. I mean, he gave everything he had to that part, and to its credit, I think it made his career more than anything else ever did.
Ever would. Yeah, but it's
But
given him the freedom to do whatever he wants now too. Because if you look at the projects that he's doing, he's all over the place and stuff that he's doing. And a lot of it looks really fun, but not stuff that you would expect him to do. Both him and Chris Pine, I'm not believing as much, but Chris Evans, like he's got some range there, dude. Like he's
Yes,
he's
he
a
does.
better actor than I think
he's
credit
way
for.
more talented than he was ever able to. But I find that to be true of actors that do well in comedy tend to do well in other things
Yes.
more often, because they do say that, and having worked in theater and stuff, that
Drama's
comedy is harder than almost anything else. It's so hard to get the timing right to do all that stuff. And I feel like film, you have an advantage because you can try 15 different things and the right one ends up on film if you have the right director, right? On stage, you get one shot a night. You can work on it till you get there, but you get one shot a night.
Oh God.
But yeah, I like Chris Evans, but I don't see him coming back.
All right, good. good theory time on the Ant-Man. Andrew, do you have anything else to say about the Ant-Man theorem that we have there, or that you had posted about that I liked? What's your reaction to that?
Not really, not yet. I'll just say though that I did read in the caption that apparently, and I'm not the comic book expert, but apparently his death has something to do to spur the formation of the Young Avengers, and I think that that could be a good kind of mirror to how Coulson's death helped kind of bring the adult Avengers back together.
I do think it's a bigger, it's definitely a bigger death than Coulson.
Yes.
But
I think
at the same
that's
time,
almost
like
what you need though. That's
the
why
Young Avengers, is started by a Kang variant.
Oh, interesting. I never knew that. God damn it.
Yeah.
So then there is a connection though, at least as far as like
for sure.
Kang. So and I think that and of course his daughter's in it. So like I think she's gonna play a role in as a Young Avenger as well. So yeah, no, I like Scott. And I think like Coulson is like, he was a minor character, but he was kind of the glue for the first iteration of films because he was,
for sure, he was the guy that ran through all of them.
Well, he was
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, like
he was in looking back, especially, and I still have to finish the last season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I just got lazy and had no, I do, just on the completions level, because I loved the show so much in the beginning and a lot through the middle, and Clark Gregg.
Yes,
he's so great.
Oh my god, and Ming not like that whole like that show to me got completely underrated.
Yes,
because it kind of it got a little long in the tooth in some ways.
Yes,
and it maybe should have ended a little sooner.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe tied into the and tie it back into a movie and end it that way. As it comes around. But
they couldn't.
I think season 1 was finding its legs.
Yeah,
and then it tied in, and then you had the whole S.H.I.E.L.D. thing, which was dope.
Yes.
And then they went and did their own thing. And I don't know what the reason for that is.
I do. It's Jeff Loeb. They were Marvel Entertainment. They were not part of Marvel Studios. So it was basically like of all the Jeff Loeb shows, and of course Daredevil and everybody else is part of that, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did the best to kind of keep up. But basically Kevin Feige and all them were like, we know, like if I have no control over this shit and it's just fucking what's his name, Mike Perlmutter and his brood running things, we want nothing to do with this. So we're gonna zag over here, not even tell you what we're doing. So when Thanos even shows up in like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it has nothing to do with. So I feel like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like it in my mind, it didn't take place in 616. It was its own thing, but it was a damn good thing. And and through no fault of their own, it was just fucking studio politics that made it not allowed to like cross in. And then they did find their own voice. The Kree were different in that show. I like their version of the Kree actually better. And Quake was cool, and
I love her.
Fucking Fitz. What were they?
Fitzsimmons.
I love that. Them. Oh my god, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So they did a good thing in the last season. So yeah, I'm getting chills now talking about it.
Well, see, I thought that's the thing. I thought if they had worked together, it would have been cool because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. could have lasted long enough that we could have seen more of what went on the ground level during the blip.
Agreed.
Like that would have been a cool storyline to go through. Like what were the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents doing during that? Trying to help figure that because all of a sudden half the world's gone.
Do you know Joss was actually pissed that Coulson was brought back? Joss Whedon was like, he's fucking dead. Like, this is some bullshit that they brought him back. Like, as far as I'm concerned, because Joss, as we all know, like apparently loves to kill people. So to reverse my decision.
Yeah, no. Joss Whedon likes to kill people and not have them come back unless he wants to start a spin-off of Buffy called Angel, where he can bring back anybody he wants to life at any time. Where it doesn't matter. Yeah, he's a snippety fuck. Anyway, so good. Done with the Marvel talk. DC 10-year plan.
Wait. Have we even introduced the show?
No, you have not introed.
All right, welcome to the All Pop No Culture podcast. I am your host, Pete. I have Kevin here tonight.
Hola.
Andrew here tonight.
Bonjour.
May have Andy, we don't know. Kim is off doing, as our text chain said, adult things with her boyfriend Sean in Napa. Good on her. And yeah, we're a pop culture centered podcast, focusing mainly with TV, streaming movies, just the whole world of visual cinema media, sometimes music, just honestly kind of whatever we've devoured in terms of media content from the last however long.
Whatever we define as pop culture that week.
Exactly. Fucking like mid 40s.
Yeah.
we are the arbiters of cool. So yeah, 10-year DC plan. Let's keep this one tight. We're gonna keep it tight. Honestly, I just have one thing to say. I don't really give a fuck anymore. Let's just see what happens. Because you've got that in tie with the whole Batman thing, saying now, he signed on for a whole trilogy. That's how they were planning on doing that. You've got Joker Folie à Deux coming out, but that was never really part of the thing anyway. That's its own separate little deal. But we were talking about tying that all in, and Flash.
But don't worry, they have a plan.
Batgirl. And interestingly, I read an article about the whole Batgirl canceling that said the real reason, or the major reason they did it, was actually because they just felt it was bad.
They did one test screening. And I don't buy it. To be perfectly honest, I don't buy it. I can't believe that after one test screening of a bad movie with all the fucking shit that they have ever put out, that they were like, and then somebody was like, well, it's not cinematic enough. I was like, well, no shit. You didn't film it to be a fucking, a cinematic movie.
HBO Max.
That's
you
what
have
they
the
filmed
streaming
it for.
Platform.
But they don't like the HBO Max platform. That's what's going away, right? Is they're dumping solely HBO Max content is supposedly what they're doing. So you're going to have HBO content. So stuff that it was made to go on HBO, but also stream. But anything that was made strictly for streaming isn't going to make it. Is like the general rule of thumb that they have out there. But I don't buy it. I think they just want to cut shit. I think it's all about money. It's all about money. They've already, I saw something that said they've already recouped $800 million worth of stuff. And their goal was $3 billion, I think.
It's been rough because I've just with my whole little surgery thing, I've been off work, so I haven't been privy to anything that people have talked about inside. Not that I really was, but we get little employee correspondence because the company I work for that rhymes with Shmee and Shmee owns that whole deal. That's they're part of a big acquisition that went on there. So it's just interesting. At least that's the way I understand how it works. I don't really know. I don't pay attention to too much of it. Yeah, that's my Andrew. What do you think? I'm just whatever's gonna happen happens.
Yeah, I'm kind of with both of you, honestly. I think, I have a saying, stop watering dead plants. So whenever I see anything that is just not working, it's almost involuntary. I just cease to care. And it's show and prove, man. Talk is cheap. So every time you make a declaration, you, in my opinion, you lose more and more credibility every single fucking time. And the beginning for me was when, oh my God, what's this guy's name? Oh my God, it's gonna bug me. But anyway, the screenwriter for, he wrote a couple things. I think he wrote even Blade, but he didn't write Man of Steel. He said on the red carpet of Man of Steel, Marvel, you're on notice, okay? And I'm okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for the battle, okay? By 2016 comes around, I'm okay, no, Civil War was a better movie than BVS. And now here in 2022, now you're saying, oh, we're going to be like Marvel. Shut the fuck up. You guys are so whack. You are so unbelievably whack. When you are whack, just shut the fuck up and perform. That's what your actions need to demonstrate your dopeness. And because anything else is just literally making us care less. So anyway, yes, I'm a wait and see. I'm not saying they're doomed, but I am saying until I see some fucking shit, who cares? I will say though, that I am intrigued by this Joker, the second movie. I'm intrigued by it. I think it could actually end up becoming an artsy masterpiece, because it's just so different. It could be like the A24 of comic book movies. We'll see. But I don't think of Gaga as
Harley Quinn.
Her. After A Star Is Born, I don't underestimate her. I think that she may be a little nutty, but she's talented. And
she's crazy talented.
Phoenix, and Joaquin Phoenix is a fucking talented motherfucker.
He's a monster. He's absolutely amazing.
So
yeah. I think my biggest issue with the whole thing is that just the way they dropped it, like their wording was very like sharp and short, so it was confusing for a lot of people because it made it sound like they're already working on the plan, and they're literally planning the plan, like they haven't done shit. Like if you really read it, they're like, we're going to get a group together and we're going to come up with a 10-year plan. It's not we have a 10-year plan. It's we're planning on having a 10-year plan. So like they haven't started. They don't even know who's in charge of that yet. Like nothing. So they're cutting all these films and trying to make it sound like it's part of their 10-year plan, but they haven't started that plan. So everything they're doing has absolutely nothing to do with cleaning up the DCEU. It has to do with cleaning up their pocketbooks.
This is my last rant on this. I remember being in the theater when I went and saw Thor. And then after in the hallway, I had no idea this was happening, but in the hallway, I see this poster and it just has a shield and it says the first Avenger. Chills. I'm like, what? And then I see another poster and it says Avengers 2012. And it's like, see, that was the beginning of I Hope I Don't Die type shit. Because I was like, they never announced they were going to do this shit. It was just Iron Man, then Iron Man 2 in 2010. And I remember hearing mixed reviews about that one. So I was like, I didn't go see it. But then when Thor comes out, I'm like, what? Okay, I go see Thor, but then I see 2 more movies in the fucking hallway that I found out about those movies by just the fact that their posters were there. So that's what I'm talking about, man. No fucking suit at Disney came out and said, we weren't even Disney yet. No fucking suit at Marvel Productions said, we're gonna make like 10 fucking movies. Like they didn't do that shit. It was corny, man. Yep. They just fucking did it, man. So I just, this is why I'm so elitist and kind of anti-human, because it's like they're run by a bunch of fucking normal fucking mediocre humans. That's the problem. Over at Sony, over at Warner Brothers, but they got a fucking superhero called Kevin Feige who is empowering real shit because he gets it. He just fucking sees real shit, empowers it, brings them into the fold, and lets them fucking execute. So, okay, I said I was about my last rant. This is my last rant. The point was, Marvel just shows and proves, and they only talk when they know they have something to talk about.
That's about, I can't disagree with any of that. You know, it's just the whole thing still just boggles my mind. And at the same time is also, again, a testament to Feige, because if you really think about it, Marvel built something from the ground up in terms of those characters in general and their knowledge and their place in the zeitgeist. People knew who they were, the guys they started out with in building the Avengers. But let's be real. At that time, still, it was X-Men and Spider-Man. Spider-Man is always, because you always knew Spider-Man, and the X-Men, the mutants, those were the big Marvel like money deals, and not even from just the movies, even the comics at that point in a lot of ways. And DC has like the biggest comic book cash cows in the world with just Batman and Superman. Wonder Woman but has become, let's be real, very you know, I mean, how do you, and they just keep fucking it up. It's like, how do you do that?
Yeah, and it's interesting, like when Iron Man dropped, you needed an Iron Man origin story because nobody, like most people don't know where Iron Man started. We needed a Thor sort of origin story, which we got, right? I mean, he's a god, whatever, but we needed that explained to us because we weren't familiar with Thor. We needed a Cap origin story because, you know, we weren't familiar with Cap. When you do Spider-Man, you don't need a Spider-Man origin story.
Everybody
got 100
does.
of those. You don't need a Superman. You don't need a Batman. You can reference it,
Yeah.
but if you waste time on it, you're wasting time. Like, I do think Man of Steel's was okay, and at least they made his origin story tie into the film. Like it
Well, they
was
made it half the fucking film.
right, and so it was important to the film. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't just like, oh, here's a
Here's the
guy,
origin story. Yeah.
and and so that worked, but you don't need that. Like, there's some characters that don't need that, and it's like, if you made an X-Men movie, I don't need it to start with, you know, the beginning of mutants, right? Like, we actually kind of got that with Miss Marvel, like the first, like, we got enough now. We're good. We know she's a mutant. We know that mutants exist. They're mutations. That's why they are what they are. So, like, it just start me with a good story.
You know what I
Eternals, we
hope
need an origin
happens?
story.
I hope what happens is that I hope the mutants and the Fantastic Four, like at least the X-Men, I should say, come from like different universes, and they come into ours. Like, they like maybe the F4 and the X-Men were in the same universe, and somehow it crosses over. I mean, that's why this whole thing's called the multiverse saga, right? So it's really their way of blending them all in, because I don't know how you honor the legacy of, in my opinion, for example, you guys know I'm a Scott Summers fan. So how you honor the legacy of Scott Summers being the first X-Man that fucking Xavier brings into the fold, and that's why he's leader. Like, how do you explain them
Easy.
doing nothing during Thanos and all that shit? That's why they've got to have been established in their world, but they come over to ours already ready baked. That's what I'm hoping.
I hope they don't even cross over into our world. I'm hoping that they actually take that they take the X-Men,
Yeah.
take the X-Men and they actually take it, because now that we've got Deadpool in, you got to think about this. Deadpool's part of the Marvel universe. It's part of the MCU. They've said it is. So mutants are in the MCU. They've established it's established. Hold on.
They're not
It's
in there
established.
yet.
So they're in his world. They're in
That's
fucking
what I'm saying.
Deadpool's
Exactly.
world.
They're in
Okay,
that world.
all right.
They already exist. We already have the platform. So fuck it. I'm not saying that we have to have the X-Men that are all, butt sex and heads flying off. Because I mean, let's be real. Deadpool, like, that movie was off the chain with what they put in there, right? So we don't have to have all that, but it's a much more, like, you call the DCEU like that little darker tone. It's a little darker tone. It's a little more violent. It's a little more.
We can have a war Wolverine. Yeah. All
it's a
right.
little more Leaf Field X-Men instead
I
of
just
because to me, if you start trying to shoehorn them into the existing world that's gone on, because even in the comics, there's only sometimes that they actually shoehorn in with each other. Because if you really think about it, you look at like the global scale size killers that the X-Men take on. You're trying to tell me the Avengers wouldn't have been alerted to that shit and tried popping in on the scene? When like Phoenix is threatening to destroy the Earth.
well, I mean, that hasn't happened yet. That
But no,
won't happen until they introduce it.
And the other thing is, I remember even like in the because I have to admit, like, for me, my knowledge is more about from the Fox TV show. I know it's heavily influenced by the comics. I do know the Avengers, or at least members of the Avengers, do show up in season 4 of that. So they do, like, they interact. So and what I like about the idea of the Avengers, I mean, fucking the X-Men appearing, at least, like, not even being shoehorned, but I want the Feige treatment on the X-Men, because I think that he's going to bring out the color and the vibrancy of the comics into the big screen. Whereas Deadpool's world's a little bit more stark and drab, and I feel like we already got that with the Fox universe. Let's give the MCU version of the X-Men, who are going to be like, just it's going to be insane. Like, I feel like it's going to be like, again, I don't want to die type shit. I keep saying that. I hope I don't die, man. And I'm just saying, like, I
Oh no, I'm there with you. I'm there with you. No. I'm not even saying necessarily the Deadpool universe,
Okay.
if you will, but I'm just saying it's there.
Yeah.
And so if Deadpool's part of it, the mutants are there, and
They're
we're
there.
talking about the way they can slide in and out. Let's just, we've already established that there's different Earths, or different timelines and different things. Let's just.
I think it's dangerous if you look at how as soon
like
as
Doctor
you keep it separated, you start to lose some of the, I don't know, I guess the authenticity of what makes the MCU the MCU.
I get what you're saying.
It's because they've made such a point of the TV shows that they've created now are canon. They're working on making the Netflix shows canon, as many of them as they can. So like all this stuff now
Danny
fits
who?
into one. I think that yeah. Nobody has heard of Danny Rand. That Thanos forgot one afterwards. The Hulk missed one. Um, but yeah, I'd almost rather see them have mutants come out of the snap or come out of something where people that already exist have been mutated and have to deal with that, and then jump off from there. It would make it closer to the Inhumans than, because with the Inhumans it was the Terrigen mist that turned people into Inhumans, right? Now, granted, I mean, they really cheated on that in Shield, Agents of Shield, where it was because you weren't a mutant, but you had a specific gene that when you hit with a Terrigen mist, you become an Inhuman. So like they were mutants, but not. It wasn't a mutation. They were just taking advantage of a gene that you had. So same thing. Yeah. But it's, I don't know. It's tricky for sure. I mean, you could say that the snap created a mutation, but that doesn't quite sound like it should be.
But then if the snap and people, I mean, except for some of the characters, because then you're talking about, I'm all for like fudging a character's backstory a little bit, like we talked about this with Craven. But then we're talking about, okay, so are we going to wait 30 years to introduce Wolverine into the MCU? Because if this is kind of the first appearance of mutants, then you're rewriting some of the like Wolverine, and I go specifically Wolverine and Magneto.
Well,
Apocalypse.
Magneto is one of the most problematic characters today in comics, because it doesn't make sense for him to originate in Auschwitz anymore, because he fucking, even if he was born in Auschwitz, he'd be 80 years old. Like, that's a fucking long time. Like, and none of his powers suggest that he's immortal or ages slower or anything like that. Yeah. So he
Which
was
is a great. Why it's probably going to be like a Rwanda type shit now. Like it'll be like some sort of genocide and like something similar to it.
Which reminds me that today, maybe you even posted it, but Giancarlo Esposito has said that he's talking to Marvel about a role. And while he hasn't said that it is Professor X, he said he would like it to be Professor X. So that's interesting. Because I think he's fucking dope. I love Giancarlo Esposito.
But I remember though, some people on my comments were like, "Fuck that!" Like he's great as a villain, And in my head, I'm just kind of like, but that's precisely why he should play Professor X, because he's always playing it. Like let's stretch him a little bit, man. And I always think that Professor X has a little bit of darkness to him anyway. And and that's one of the things I liked. I'm not going on a tangent. It's one of the things I liked about X3. Sorry, I felt like, you saw a little bit of the darkness in him when he's like, I don't display myself to anyone, least of all to you, Logan, as far as like why he caged fucking Jean, And then, of course, anyway. So I like, because X is so dope that I think when you're a dope person, it's easy to be arrogant and think everyone else is whack.
Well, it's very much, who's the dude in charge of Hogwarts that fucking dies? Dumbledore, right? Like he consistently put Harry in danger, knowing that he had to, because whatever, to get things to line up in a certain way. So like, Professor X is playing 3D chess all the time, right? So, he's thinking about the people that maybe he's going to have to sacrifice, or maybe he's going to have to do to, save everything. Like he's brilliant. He's powerful,
And
whatever.
Giancarlo could play 3D chess in his roles, because as
For
fucking
sure.
Gus
For
Fring, you
sure.
guys watch any of that shit? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
get Better Call Saul?
Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Yeah.
Yes.
So
The
I love that idea. I can just already see the fanboys tripping out because again, this talks about like the backstory. He's at least what they've established before is that he has traditionally been that British guy. I
Yeah,
don't know.
but
I
I mean
no,
that.
I like it. I'm all for it. I'm just like I can already see like the racist fanboys coming out out of the
Well, yeah,
woodwork.
fuck them. That's all I have
Going
to say about that.
like
Fuck them.
Yeah. That's my
like,
thing. Is like,
it's just so
yeah.
annoying that that's out there. Oh my god. Because
yeah,
I love the idea.
Purely
I think
based on what I'm sorry, but what Kevin said, like he'd be 80s, like it doesn't work
yeah.
anymore.
At this point, you have to give. If you're going to have Magneto, if you're going to have Professor X, they need a new origin story. They can't be friends from World War II. It just doesn't make sense unless you do some kind of shit with Kang where the mutants existed in the 40s and then you push them all forward all of a sudden, and then bring all the X-Men here.
Would be another universe, which could work too.
Yeah, Kang. That's the thing. Kang can change so much, because all the timelines and shit.
You just fucking answered the question. So Kang, if he can change so much, that means then he could So, dude, I actually my brain just melted a little bit. Okay, so basically, yeah, all right.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get another X-Men answer in Quantumania because of the way it's going to deal with multi-dimensions and all that stuff. I think that's where the next answer is.
And I think we're also going to get some more stuff about that in Loki, second season of that.
For sure. Which is filming. Yeah.
Because they're So Marvel, we're done with that. We need to move on because we're keeping it tight tonight. Nice and tight. So yeah, I'm just gonna leap off from the jump here. But I'm wearing my my Argyle T-shirt that I got at the Stranger Things experience. This was really, really cool. If anybody has it in their city, I think it's in, I want to say it's in New York. I think there's one in LA. There's one here in San Francisco. If you have it in your city and you're listening, go and do it if you're a Stranger Things fan. It's really, really cool. Now, if you have not watched Stranger Things, do not bother doing this. None of it will make any sense to you at all. It's just not. So it's neat because you go in, and they make it very immersive. You're doing the Hawkins sleep study, is what you go in there for. From the minute you go in there, and you go in and they've got it's almost like a dinner theater. They've got actors and actresses walking around, and like at one point we're standing there in queue, as they're letting groups of people in, and they've got monitors playing. Everything is very 80s. Like it actually looks very appropriate and in line. It's really good. But they have like this researcher walking around with clipboards, and I was there with my daughter and her friend and a family friend, and so we go, and the girl comes up behind my daughter and is just like staring at the back of her head, making notes on the clipboard, and she'd look up at the clipboard and look down, and the three of us are watching this, and my daughter's like facing us, and then she doesn't see it, and all of a sudden we start laughing. My daughter turns around and he's like, just observing, and like walks away. And it was really fun. So it's totally immersive. And and so you go and you get a little wristband, and you're in one of three groups. And you go in and it's three colored groups. There's blue, yellow, and red. I forgot what each one of us stood for. Like blue, we were blue, and that was intelligence. Yellow is red is physical, and yellow was like intuitive. Or intuitiveness or something. And basically you go in and they have you do this little puzzle for a second. You're interacting with a researcher for a minute, and then they have you do these poses, and you all have powers like 11, right? Like my little group, the intelligence group, we made a metronome stop working, right? And then the other group moved a Pepsi can and then crushed three of them. That was the physical group. And they have these special effects happening live in front of you on the table, on a desk. And then like the intuitive group, they did, I mean, it's projected obviously, but there's a speaker where Dr. Brenner is talking to you, and they have all these spiders crawl out, and they're projecting, they crawl along the wall, and then they like phase out and disappear.
I'm already done. Fuck this whole thing. Fuck it. Stranger Things can eat my butt. I'm done.
Well, no, because you're in like the rain. It's like the rainbow room.
I don't give a shit.
Is
You
what it's
said
supposed to be
spiders. I'm
mimicking.
done, dude. I'll punch people on the way out the door. I don't care. I don't
So
do spiders.
then you go walking
Wow.
into the. They have you then walk into the next room, and all the time weird shit's been happening, and like you hear the voices of the kids pop in and out, like because they have this whole lady who's like, and the lady who did the acting ours did a great job of like the person who, all right, it's the Hawkins Lab sleep survey, and they show you a little video. I mean, it all looks like an 80s industrial film, like the stuff they did, like the production value on it is fucking way up there, right? So then you go into the next room, and now you got Dr. Brenner and the kids hacking into the system in Hawkins Lab, trying to help you because you're trying to escape because the rift is open, and there's demogorgons loose and demodogs, and so you have to like strike these poses, and like these lighting effects happen, and like a lever will move on a control system, and something will happen, right? And they do all this, and they've got have you been to Universal Studios, either of you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, with the Harry Potter stuff, did you do any of the Harry Potter stuff? Have you been there like
Well, I
recently
did the
enough to do
Florida
that?
one, so I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, no, that's the one I did. Yeah,
Okay.
I did Florida.
Okay.
The Harry Potter
Yeah.
stuff in there.
I think the Harry Potter stuff in Florida is probably much better than the stuff in LA. LA
Oh,
is a little
it's
too small for that shit.
amazing. Yeah, dude. Oh,
Yeah.
Harry Potter World in Florida is off the fucking chain. That's the only thing we did at our day at Universal was Harry Potter the
Okay.
whole
Yeah.
friggin' day.
LA
It
is
was
totally
amazing.
different now. It's too fucking small.
No, not to get too off this because I want to wrap this up, but they in the Harry Potter world, when you're going on the Hogwarts ride, one of the big things about Harry Potter is like the paintings that come alive.
Yes.
Dude, like
Good.
whatever they do, it is so well done that it looks seamless. Like you would have thought that the actress literally sat there unmoving for 3 minutes before she starts talking and moving again. It's insane. Anyway, to illustrate that, this was kind of a simplified version of that, where they had these white panels that were like, like the door, like the glass in the doors, but it's frosted. Well, what they did is they had people, running by, and they had different lighting effects that you're seeing through this frosted, but it's clear that it's, like they're LED pictures or something. And then you have demo dogs that are attacking the glass, and you're seeing them like open their mouths on it. Like it's really cool shit. Then you go into the Upside Down. They open a portal, which is honestly the only thing that looks even mildly cheesy, because they have to. I mean, you can only do so much. You have to have people walk through something. Honestly, it kind of looked like you were walking through a weird vagina. Like that was my first impression of what it looked like when I saw it. And it's like it's got these weird rubber obstacles you kind of push past as you go through, and it's kind of like, all right, this is odd, but whatever. And then you go in, and you have a pair of 3D glasses that you're wearing, and you're in a room, and you're in the Upside Down, and they have an actress come out who looks vaguely like 11, and she's interacting with a giant 3D screen. Well, she comes out after Max does. No spoilers. It's worth it to see it. There's really cool effects that they do, and you're using your little superpowers, and the way they do the 3D and incorporate a live actress with what's happening on these screens. It's totally worth it. So you're done with that. That's the experience part. Then you go out. There's a Scoops Ahoy ice cream parlor. There's a Pizza Boy pizza place. There's all sorts of photo opportunities that are awesome. And you could that part you can just spend as much time as you want in it. Nobody hassles you with anything. Honestly, I was a little disappointed with the merch. That was the only thing. Like I expected there to be more of a variety. They had some weird stuff. And it could just be also that it's they're kind of running low on some stuff, and the stuff that they don't have haven't sold a lot of is still out there. Like they have a whole Rinkomania like setup like for the skating rink, and I think they just needed something very 80s theme that they could do in that one, because that was such a, I mean, it's one episode. Yes, it's a very pivotal moment in the show, but you're only in that place for 1 minute. Like they've got a mall, they've got the Starcourt Mall section where it's like the bar is there, and they have actual costumes from the show. Like they had Erica's helmet with the flashlights on it, Dustin's headset, a couple little things like that. It's cool shit like that. They got a lot of photo stuff. Again, just a little disappointed with the merch. If you're a Stranger Things fan, totally worth it to go and see it. If you have little kids, like I don't know what age it recommends. I think for my daughter Stella, my youngest, just with her personality and who she is, it's not that it was too scary, but for her it would have just been way overstimulating. There's just a lot going on with lights and sounds and building of anxious moments and things like that for young kids. I would say between 10 and 12 is the perfect age. If you're, if they've watched it and they're about that age, it's about fine. But it can get scary is not the right word for it, especially if you've watched the show. If it's a 10-year-old kid who's watched the show, they're not going to find it scary. Even with as real as it looks, like there's nothing that's as scary as what you saw on the screen, especially if you know who all the Vecna stuff and everything else. Like that's, it's not that. There's just a lot of visual and audio stimuli that might get a kid going. Anyway, wrap that up. Somebody else talk about something else. Go see it. Go to the Stranger Things experience. Totally worth it. Who wants to go next?
You know what? I'll jump in because there's something I forgot that that I did do in the last couple of weeks, and it's something that we rarely talk about, but we talking about sometimes. It's video games.
Ooh, hold on before you say that, because this will lead into Total Jag. Just because I want to get my video game thing out real quick. That video game that I started, Triangle Strategy, that I talked about a couple weeks ago. I actually finished it. This is the first time I finished a video game in like 15, 20 years.
Nice.
It was kind of a cool achievement in theory. I'm actually looking forward to the replay. So if you're on Switch and you're looking for like a Final Fantasy Tactics type, turn-based RPG, it's a totally great game. But save your money if you want to wait, because Front Mission First is coming out soon, and I've already talked about that and ranted about that enough. So please, Kevin, go on.
Glad I could start. Glad I could go. Yes. So kind of last year at the PlayStation event, I forget what they call it. They introduced very briefly a game called Stray, and the game, you literally, all it shows is a little kitty cat going across the screen, and that's it. And it turns out in the game, you're going to play just a kitty cat, not a super powered kitty cat, not a magical kitty cat, not a talking kitty cat, just a kitty cat. And is a very interesting concept and kind of an interesting idea. And as time went on, like more details came out. And so, you're living in this, I wouldn't say post-apocalyptic world. You're living in this world where, humans are gone, but it's not like dark and over dramatic. It's just people have died off and robots are running things. And you're a cat that accidentally falls into like a shelter where these robots are. And so it's just a little adventure game. It's about 5 hours long. It's not wildly long. And then, but it's really cool. Like you befriend this little robot that kind of becomes part of your, like it puts a little backpack on you and it follows you around like a little floating robot and translates for you and kind of feeds the story to you as you interact with things. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's really cool. Like literally everything you can do as a cat, you can do in this game, which is such a weird thing to think is cool, but it's really fun for a short game. My youngest son played it, and then he like watched me play it and fucking guided me through everything. He's like, "No, dipshit, go over there, get that thing." He's like, "No, don't be an idiot, go do that thing." And like it's good for any age. It's a really pretty game. Like it's on the PlayStation 4, so they put a lot of money into it. And it's really like super cool. Like it's a really good story. Which again, from a cat, your character has no dialogue and only interacts with the world, is kind of interesting. But they just did a really, really, really cool job with it. Like I said, it's super pretty. And then it'll be cool to see if they decide to do a sequel, because there's some fun story places they can go with it. But yeah, it's a really pretty world, cool concept. You actually like in the beginning, you interact with other cats. You can sit on people's lap and they'll pet you. Like there's all kinds of weird shit that is like really fun. But it's cool. It's really cool. And I would recommend it to anybody with a PlayStation 4. If you have any of the PlayStation Plus bundles, I believe it's actually free. If you don't have the bundles, I think it's only $30. It's very, I don't say this about mini games, but it has a lot of replay value. Like you could just play it again and just have a good time with it. So that's what I've got. And then speaking of video games and PlayStation and Sony, Mr. Pete watched a Sony film because we love Sony so much.
You do.
I'm very torn right now because you actually could have segued. You could segue me into something else. So I'm going to let you guys decide what I'm going to talk about, and then I'll talk about the other one next week. So just tonight, I watched Uncharted. Or the other day, I took Stella to see DC League of Super Pets.
I am cool with Uncharted just because I remember the first time me and Kevin had like a solo kind of, episode.
Is that when we talked about it? Okay.
Talked about Uncharted for the first. I was like, so it's a sentimental thing for me. So
the movie or the game?
The movie. Because
it
was like
I watched it on a plane.
Yeah. And and I was asking questions about it and everything, and we were talking about not Toby. I can't believe I almost called him Toby before. What the fuck's wrong with me?
Tom Holland.
And like, the fact that he's going to be not Sinatra, he's going to be Fred Astaire. So he's going to be fine career-wise. But I just didn't get the feeling that this movie was going to be anything special. But, Kevin liked it. So now it's your turn to also tell me the movie is actually pretty good.
So I knew nothing of the games really, other than they were kind of like Indiana Jonesy, Tomb Raider-ish type games, right? Like that's that vein. I know that might be an oversimplification for it. I know there are people who absolutely love it.
Okay, so before you start on reviewing the movie, I would tell you the Uncharted collection has the first 3 games for like $30 to $50. If you have a PlayStation 4, fucking play them. They're amazing. Uncharted 4 is a masterpiece. Uncharted 2 has always kind of been my favorite because there's some really cool shit that they did in that one. But 4 is fucking beautiful and amazing. And they are great stories. They all tie into each other perfectly. So that's my rant on that. Definitely play them if you can.
So I will start by saying I may have to go buy a PlayStation in the next year or so. I really feel like just because of the way you and Alex have ranted about it in the past, that when the Last of Us show comes out, if it's done well, that might be the linchpin that pushes me over the edge. I loved this movie. Buy
a PlayStation 5 and buy the new remake of The Last of Us that is coming out in next month. It's The Last of Us, same story, same actors, but redone. And then by The Last of Us Part 2. But The Last of Us TV show is based on the first game, and that's that. Go again.
Okay. I absolutely loved this movie. Like it is definitely a world that it feels like a video game, and there's a ton of Easter eggs. I mean, it did have, there were a couple of moments that were very much almost like what I hated about that first Doom movie, that The Rock.
Was that The Rock?
Yeah, way back when, where all of a sudden at the end it turned into the game and you were suddenly just like watching a first person shooter happen. Like there were a couple little moments, and I totally understand that they were like when he reaches down for the gunpowder and he picks it up. There's a couple little moments like that I'm like, that I was kind of like, that's a video. But it's so well done, and honestly, Tom Holland is so charming about the whole thing that it works. I'm always back and forth with what's his bucket?
Wahlberg.
Wahlberg. I go back and forth. I either love him or hate him in something. This one, I really, really liked him. He's good. It works.
He's the the most problematic character if you've played the video games, because
I've heard
he's nothing like Sully, from the video games. Sully in the video games is a very different character. And the other thing that was really problematic for people that loved the games is that Uncharted 3 has the backstory of them meeting, and it is absolutely not like that. So there's this, this divergence between the two, which for me is fine. I would rather have our multiverse story of Uncharted in the movies, and go and do your own fucking thing. You can use the same character names, and most of the personalities can be the same.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be the same. But a lot of people, because this is a tent pole of Sony's, most people that have a PlayStation have played these games. They love these games. Nolan North is Nolan North. Like, he's a huge deal in voice acting. So when Nolan North did it, like, the big thing was that the only person that people ever wanted to see play this character was Nathan Fillion. Because
I get that.
Further into the games you look, further in the games you get, the more he starts to look like Nathan Fillion. The character acts like Nathan Fillion, to the point where Nathan Fillion made a 5 or 10 minute fan service Uncharted flick. It's like him in a shootout dressed like Nick Drake. And I mean, it's fucking perfect, but you can't start a franchise with a 50-year-old actor, based on this. So
this is, I mean, they said this is, that the way this is supposed to fit into the world is that as a prequel to the games, so that it's supposed to, this is, having not played the games and not having any emotional attachment to it. This is the kind of movie I love, that I wish there were more of. Like, I love these kind of movies. I love these like Curse of the Gold Monkey, Indiana Jonesy, like Tomb Raider-esque type things. I love to go and find the missing artifact, fight they're just fun. They're thrilling. They're great capers. They're always, that's why I really want to see Bullet Train when it comes out, because I feel like it's got the same kind of vibe. I loved it. I'd love to see more of them.
I would too. I would love to see a sequel. There's no guarantee that they're going to do one at this point. Yeah. Because it didn't land well. And when I was talking to Andrew about it, it is problematic, because when you're making a much loved video game into a movie, either you tell the story that all the gamers have already seen, so why do they want to see it on the screen? Or you advertise it for people that have never played Uncharted, so why the fuck would they go see it? Like, it's this thing where it's hard to market it. It's hard to make it. The Last of Us, they basically said, fuck it, we're telling the exact same story. Which for me is brilliant, because that is such a cinematic experience in the game that, yes, I think everybody should experience it in the game, because having, or at least feeling like you have agency over the things that are happening in the game, is a big deal, and you experience it more. But there's so many people out there that will never pick up a PlayStation controller, and never play this game. And I think the story is so good, especially in the first one, that everybody should see it. Like, it's so well done. But Uncharted is a different thing. Uncharted is fun. It's an adventure. It's, all that. So, it is an Indiana Jones thing, where they can just make Uncharted movies. And as long as somebody would just come out and say, cool, we hope you like the first one, we're going to build off of this. And it's not the video games. We're not tied to the video games. And they even stole a huge scene from the video games. The one where everything's falling out of the back of the plane.
Yeah, that's a whole sequence. In like,
I think it's in the third one, but it takes place over the desert. It takes place over desert instead of the water. But
I went and looked, because I knew, like, I knew there were going to be a ton of Easter eggs throughout this thing for fans, right? And as soon as that scene happens where he crawls out on the beach and he talks to that random ass dude, I was like, okay, who is this guy? So I looked up Easter eggs, and I'm like, oh shit, that's the voice actor, dude. Okay. Yeah. I get it. And it like listed a couple others that were in there, and it said, that one was a sequence. That was a great sequence. It was fun. The CGI was a little rough on Holland, but it didn't really matter, honestly, because I'm already in a world where I have to completely like suspend my disbelief.
Yeah, for sure.
What's going on? Like, you just like, forget it. It's that kind of world, and it's that kind of fun. So just go enjoy it for what it is. It doesn't matter. It's just some hyper realistic thing. All that being said, they're just great fun. Like, take the video game out of it. I would love to see an Uncharted series. Keep it going.
Yeah. I personally, again, I waited long enough. I heard all the bad reviews. I knew what people didn't like. I do love the games. I've played the entire series at least twice. Like, I know the what it's based on, and I know that it's not accurate to that at all. Well, I won't say at all, but it's not accurate to that. And I'm okay with that, and I get why people aren't. But for me, the fact that Nolan North went on set, Nolan North met Tom Holland and talked to him about it, because for me, he's like the gatekeeper of the character. Like, yeah, there's all these people behind it, but I mean, Nolan North is Nathan Drake, period. Uh, and so when he comes and says, "Oh, I met Tom Holland," yeah, it's different, but I'm passing the torch. Good for him. Let's go. Then I'm like, you know what? If it's good enough for the guy that is the character, then it's good enough for me. Who the fuck am I? So let me now, if it was poorly made, if the story was stupid, if the acting was bad, whatever, that would be different. But if they were going to take liberties with the characters and with the story and the history and all that, let them, just roll with it.
Yeah, Andrew, I would say definitely watch it if you haven't seen it. It's just a lot of fun. It really is. Like I know it gets panned by some people sometimes because of it's a Disney movie and everything else. Like, I love the National Treasure movies. I'm very excited for this series. I know they're Nick Cage and they're kind of goofy.
That's actually, for me, is a better comparison than Indiana Jones. I think it's more National Treasure than Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it's more that in that vein, and they're just fun. It's like I said, like, I love those librarian movies with Noah Wiley. They're fucking goofy and stupid, but it's just fun. He's like solving fun little puzzles as you go through things. Like, I love all that shit. It's great because it takes you back to a time when you were a kid, and you kind of you get enchanted with the idea of at least I did, of like finding a hidden tomb and unearthing a dead body that's got a jewel encrusted thing, and it's the mystery that leads to the next mystery that leads to the next mystery
that gets you to One-Eyed Willie.
So forth. Exactly. It's I just love that little style of storytelling and movies. So yeah, I would say definitely see it. It's just fun. It's again, though, suspend the shit out of your disbelief.
Right.
Like, there's some things that happen at times in this movie where you're just like, the fuck out of here.
But I would say any adventure movie like this, you have to. Like, there's just some ridiculous shit. Like, and have fun with it. I also, the one thing that I really liked about it was, I thought Antonio Banderas made a good bad guy. I liked him as the
bad guy. Oh yeah. Yes. Oh, Antonio Banderas. Like we were talking about Giancarlo Esposito being a good guy. I'm on board with that. I'm on board for more Antonio Banderas as the bad guy, and not like the bad guy is in the like sexual thriller where he's killing the woman, or like one of those where he's the lover who has found this woman, and I'm secretly on the run for killing 12 other women who I've been like that kind of shit movie that they do. Like, he could be a very good bad guy at this point.
Yeah, he did a good job.
But yeah, definitely see Uncharted.
All right.
And cool. That's the end for me. And Kevin, unless you have anything else, I say we hand it over to Andrew, because you are chock.
Yeah.
I want to hear about all of it. All of it. I tell you, all of it.
So there were like 3 movies that I could talk about, but I want to keep it concise as well, because we're going to talk about another movie, all 3 of us, afterwards.
Well, one of them I want you to keep not just concise, just as spoiler free as you can, but still give me your impression on it.
So basically, the one that I'm most actually kind of excited to talk about and impressed by, and there's not going to be spoilers, is a little A24 film called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And I first heard of this film as one of the trailers that was leading up to Black Phone. So I'm glad that I saw those trailers, because there's a lot of cool little kind of horror or thriller or slasher films coming out, and I think we're having a moment. This film basically has been described as Euphoria with knives. I don't think that's a necessarily inaccurate description. I think one of the first things I want to kind of point out about this film that makes it special is I know the last episode we talked about, strong women characters and how I think women in general are becoming more of a force in Hollywood. So I think it's important to note that the movie was directed by Helena Rain, who is from Holland. The screenplay is by someone named Sarah DeLapp, and the story is by someone named Kristen Rupanian. So I think that in and of itself is worth noting. The main premise of the film ultimately is it's a look at youth today, as in like your Generation Z. These are people in their 20s, and they have all gotten together. It is basically like your murder mystery type situation. And what really makes the film work, in my opinion, are the performances and the characters. I think that's the thing that, of course, any murder mystery is about. You see these very distinct characters and the interactions, and you're absolutely like watching each person and wondering who did what. Another thing that's really cool about this film is after the film was over, Maria Bakalova, who you guys might remember as Borat's, I think, niece, she's fucking hilarious. Like in Borat, in this film, she's basically playing your fish out of water. She's still European or Russian, and she's brought to this house by another girl, so they're in a relationship, and basically that's where things happen. But during the Q&A, the director was talking about how the reason why she wanted to make the film ultimately was, of course, it's a good story, but it's also a good kind of look at like American culture and from a European lens, but it was still very American. And also just even looking at, kind of a snapshot of that generation. A lot of what happened on screen was improvised, as in some of the lines are hilarious, like in terms of things like talking about gaslighting or talking about, don't silence me, or you're being toxic, like so the things that were in the trailer. A lot of that was improvised. And there's a line in the trailer even that Pete Davidson says about, I look like I fuck, like that's what I do. I like there. The director is like, yeah, that was not in the script. Like Pete Davidson absolutely said, like, that's what I do. I look like I fuck, like that's what I do. Like, and I can't even do it the way Pete did it, but shit is fucking hilarious. If you're a Myers-Briggs person, at least I was doing it. I was typing everyone, and the ENFP, that's Pete, is hilarious in that film, and she definitely did a lot of improv in there. There's an INTJ in there who is definitely kind of cold as ice. I had a hard time typing Maria actually, but I think she might be an INFP. But man, I just, when the film was done and when you find out, because of course there's a twist, there's always a twist. Like, yeah, the payoff was good, I think. And it was well done. So do not hesitate to see this film, Bodies. Cool. It is definitely like the way Heathers was for the late 80s in terms of kind of being a satire of like, the cruelty that can happen amongst social situations. This film was a satire of the cruelty that can happen in our generation. And the last thing I'll say as an introvert is I would never be in that fucking movie. The whole time I was there, I was like, okay, this is why I don't do people. Like, if I like, you need to come to this house, okay, and have to like worry about your fucking life, because now you're around all these motherfuckers, you don't even know them, and people are getting killed now. See, if you had stayed home, none of this would have happened. So that's all I got. Fire away with questions if you have any.
No, I love that you loved it, and I love that info on it, because I've watched the trailer for this movie, and it looked hilarious to me, but also kind of like in a good thriller, scary vibe, but not like in a schlocky horror way. Yes. Like, like a few, like I feel like there's a few very well placed jump scares, but not a lot. But that it just seems like, again, from the trailer, that there's going to be some pacing that really builds up some tension for you as it goes. The only thing I was worried about, and I'm glad you described it the way you did, was just looking at the characters and some of the conversations that they had, that it skews a little younger than I am.
Oh yeah,
if you will, like not just in terms of the actor's age. I worry at times that I'm getting to that point in my life where it could be an interesting film to watch, but there is like this is the film for the young kids these days, not not the
Yeah,
old.
the director made a point to say that even though the film was, definitely kind of a snapshot of this generation, it was made to be enjoyed by everyone because a lot of what happens is universal. Um, and trust me, I'm sensitive to that too. Like I definitely like now, like when I'm reading up in the cast, I'm seeing there's nobody over the age of 28 except for one person. Um, a cool factoid, Ronan, I'll say this, Ronan the Accuser, as in the guy who was in Guardians, he's actually in this movie. So we know he's not a youngin.
Lee Pace.
Yeah.
You guys are good.
Oh
Pushing
yeah, no.
Daisies,
I
dude.
wouldn't know that.
Yeah,
But
he's,
yeah.
no, yeah, he was in Pushing Daisy. He's also in The Hobbit. He plays the Elf
Yes.
King.
Correct.
That's
Okay,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
He's in the movie. And so he basically, as a single dude, I'll just say it right now, like I would never be him because like obviously they're looking at him like, who the fuck is this guy and why is he here? Like he's fucking old. Like and I'm
Right.
like, you're talking about me, shit. But anyway,
yeah, but dude, you got to know, there's always one creepy old white dude at every gathering of young people that nobody's quite sure who brought him, but he's just there.
It's
doing
usually
everybody's
Pete.
drugs. Yeah, I just, I tell kids not to buy drugs because be young and cute, then people give them to you for free. So it's just the easiest way to do it.
So yeah, I recommend it.
Cool.
The other film that I'll talk about really briefly, actually, because I'm going to save the other A24 film, Everything Everywhere All at Once, for next show, is Nope. So that one happened about 2 weeks ago, and I think from the trailers that it's some alien shit, so I don't think that's a spoiler. But what I will say though is that what I liked about Nope is, and I speak in abstractions here, is Daniel Kaluuya is basically the son. He is the son of this rancher who raises horses, and the horses are used for films. So they basically raise these horses to be used in Hollywood. And there's some kind of cool Black history there in that. I didn't know that was something that, anyways, there's something in there in the movie. Daniel Kaluuya and his sister, they are basically,
it's like Keke Palmer.
Yeah, you guys are serious.
I
have zero name ability, but you guys are dope.
I saw an interview with her about it, and only because she's one of those girls that now I've watched her career a little bit as she grows up, because she was in Akilah and the Bee, which was a really big like kids movie or kids-ish movie a few years back about a girl who wins the spelling bee. And it's a good movie, but it was her kind of debut. And she's done a couple other things here and there, but this is like, I don't want to say her growing up movie, but like she plays an adult in this movie from what I've seen in the trailer.
Oh yeah,
and that's it's a big step. It's like the first time. It's cool. So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, please continue.
It's funny you bring it up though, because also one of the two main stars of Bodies played Rue in the Hunger Games. So
sweet.
Yeah, there's a connection. Her name is Amanda Stenberg. But yeah, so Amanda Stenberg and Maria Bakalova, I'd say, are the two leads of Bodies. Yeah, Maria actually gave me a lot of 11 vibes, because 11 also has that whole fish out of water thing going on with her, as far as like being around other people and not knowing how to act and hitting people with skates and shit. Anyway, going right back to Nope. I think
such a great
Nope,
moment.
such a great moment. Nope is one of those films that kind of explores what it's like to. It's about rules. It's about rules when it comes to dealing with predators. This is going to be such a great segue. So obviously the alien situation is like, it's definitely kind of hunting like the people. And basically what makes this film work, ultimately, is that the characters, the brother and the sister, that's where I was going with this. The brother and the sister work together to basically, have heroic moments in the film, just like they did in Black Phone, about a brother and a sister. The same thing in this movie. And I think that what I like about that, holy shit, even the movie we're going to talk about has a brother and sister situation. But what I like about Nope is that it gives both of them a chance to really shine, particularly Keke. And the guy, the villain from The Crow, and he was also in, I think, The Doors. He has a very deep voice. He looks like a rocker, like long hair, whatever. I don't remember his name, but anyway, he's in the movie as a cinematographer. Um, I'm just botching everyone's name. I know the guy who was in Walking Dead. I think is Korean or some shit. He's in there.
Young.
Yeah, he's also in Invincible. He plays the lead character.
Yeah.
He's in there. Like, I think it's just it's a movie that definitely. I remember what I was gonna say. It's an auteur film, but the thing is, and we talked about indie films last time, and I talked about how I kind of don't like indie films because you can make a movie about a banana and call it a masterpiece because I made it, so it's a fucking movie about a banana. But like, no, what's his name?
Oh wait, the cinematographer is what's his bucket? Jordan Peele.
Okay, Jordan Peele wrote, directed, produced this film, so it's his voice. I feel like, it was his voice. Were there things that could have been better? Could pacing have been better? Yeah, but the thing is, it wouldn't have been his voice. So I enjoy seeing his mind played out in this movie.
Okay. The cinematographer is Michael Wincott. That's who you mean. Okay, Michael Wincott.
Okay, you know who he is? Yeah.
Yeah, who played the head bad guy in The Crow.
Yes.
Like, yes. If you saw him, Kevin, you'd be like, oh, that fucking dude.
It's so recognizable. He has kind of like dead eyes, and he has a really deep voice, deep gruff voice. So it was just cool to see him. It's total random. I will, I don't know. I'm trying to be spoiler free. I'm speaking in abstractions because I just feel like, but I did talk about the whole rules thing, the whole Predator thing. I would just say, compared to like Us or Get Out, I do think this is the biggest budget film he's ever done. Mm-hmm. And again, I was satisfied. Some people didn't get it, but I had no problems with it. I thought it was worth seeing, and I would just say go see it.
This reminds me of the conversation we had offline because we were waiting for everybody to get together, but about Old, which is something that I watched, yes. And how Shyamalan. I feel like Shyamalan needs to go sit down with Jordan Peele every time he makes a fucking movie because he can't end a movie the right way anymore. Like The Sixth Sense and Signs, sorry, not Signs, Sixth Sense and the others had great endings. Like those stuck the landing, and then he hasn't stuck one since. Like Old almost worked, and then he went like 5 minutes too long.
I thought he stuck the landing on The Village. I just thought it was fucking stupid.
Yeah, well, that's not sticking the landing then. You know what I mean? Like
no, but it was I'm saying it was a good Shyamalan surprising twist that made sense. I just thought what it twisted into was dumb. Like she steps into the thing, is hit by a fucking car. It's like, oh, they're in I liked the twist. I just didn't like. I thought what he twisted to was stupid, but it was a great twist. I was like, oh, yeah, because I really didn't see that coming. But I'm like.
Yeah, like with Old, it was great. Like there's some weird supernatural shit that's making everybody get old. We don't explain that.
Yeah,
fine. People are studying that. Fucking brilliant. Like the people using other humans to experiment on to figure out like how to advance science was actually fucking great. Like I was like, that's super cool. That's great. And then in the last like 3 minutes, these fucking 50-year-old people show up and they're like, hey, 2 days ago, we were 6 years old. And everybody's just like, no shit, really? Oh my God, this is awful. They just buy it. Like the chick in charge goes and sits in a corner and fucking pouts because she's been found out. And I'm like, if you're this fucking mega drug conglomeration and some shit goes sideways, you just fucking kill those people. Like you just throw them back on the island. Like they are obviously big and powerful and everything. There is no way that if these two people showed up, they wouldn't be like, look at these two crazy people. Put them back in their little institution.
Of disbelief was definitely not effective.
I am like I have it with the supernatural thing. Like even some of that story was actually a little slow and boring at parts, but I was fine with it. And the fact that something mysterious was happening, I was fine with that. Everything, and then the scientists were working on it. Fine with that. It's the thing that should be true, like the thing that should just make sense, the common sense thing that didn't work. Like there's no way in any universe somebody's going to walk up at 50 years old and say, I was 6 years old 2 days ago. And anybody isn't going to be like, you're insane. Like there's nobody that could tell that story that would make it believable.
So one thing I will say, and then we're going to transition, I think, about, what I liked about this film is, in any film, like, I think that who you choose to die, I think it's kind of a very deliberate and almost political thing. It's like you're making a conscious choice on what you're trying to say. And, I will say that some films, in my opinion, get it right and do something different. And other films, I think, get it predictable. So what I will say is I did pay attention to who wrote, at least from a gender perspective, who wrote on Prey. And I will say that for me, I thought it was a bit predictable. Whereas I think in Nope, no, I think that it's more subversive and not in a, I hate the word subversive because it makes me think of Rian Johnson. I'm trying to be subversive with Last Jedi. Fuck you, Rian Johnson. But not subversive, but definitely like just different and fresh to show us something new,
Yeah.
And I think that that's what Jordan Peele does well. I think he does actually bring something different to the table every single time. So Nope is not a Nope for me. Do I think it's a blockbuster? No. Do I think it's a film worth seeing? Yes. Do I think it's a film that will make you think if you are like discerning enough to actually ask the question, should we be taming animals for our entertainment? Then I think it's worth seeing, because I think that the film definitely had something to say about that. And basically what it was saying was, if you choose to do this, follow the fucking rules, because if you don't, you will get hurt or worse. So that's it.
Cool. I'm very, that's another one that I was like really on. I want to see that.
To your opinion.
Yeah. Nice.
So I guess what I will say then is, right before this show started, I raced home from Bodies, turn on Hulu and turn on the last hour of this film. And it sounds like you guys loved it. So I think you guys should start, or maybe not loved, like I could tell from your reaction, but like, it was cool, it was cool, but I'm not really a huge Predator person. I've only seen 3 of them, which is the first one, the second one, and this one. So that's what I'll say.
Okay, well, that's how well do you remember the second one?
Pretty well. Because actually,
the second one's the one in New York, right? With
yeah,
LA.
LA.
It was LA.
LA,
it was
yeah.
after like the 3rd LA riot, whatever.
Right, yeah.
Although the BART train was in the fucking movie, so they must have filmed some scenes in the Bay Area. That was pretty cool.
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was exactly what I expected it to be. I was not expecting, even when I saw that they were fighting Native Americans, like this was the hunt that was going on. I was not expecting it to be a think piece. It's a Predator movie. So like the bottom, like I was just hoping they didn't like fuck it up, if you will. Because the last so previously on All Pop No Culture 1.0, I had to watch the Predator franchise, including the Alien versus Predator movies. So I have, in the last year, watched all of these fucking things. Wow. So it did catch me, because a lot of things that people were here, were saying were like, well, this is the first time that a Predator is on Earth, and it's not, because Aliens versus Predator is canon, and that's actually where Weyland-Yutani first finds out about the aliens, because you have to watch the first Alien versus Predator movie, because that's it. There's a pyramid in Antarctica, and that's where the Predators come to earn their little laser blaster on their shoulder. It's a whole thing. It builds more into the Predator Society. There's a queen alien that gets thawed out. It's a trip. It's a shitty movie, but it's still a trip, and like adds to the I put it like this: if you like the Predator and you like the alien stuff, watch it, because it's just fun to get a little more mythology and see the intertwining of that more. They're shit movies. It's not, it's an action movie. There's fun, enjoyable moments. I thought Prey was really good. I will say I dug the idea of them hunting, like Native American, like an indigenous person, like a savage, if as the way the French would have looked at it. It's a very interesting idea, and it was a cool concept. I thought they did it very well. I feel like, as far as I know, looking at the cast, it looks like it's all Native Americans.
Which is a big deal. We've kind of talked
very
about
big
that before,
deal.
where when you're doing the inclusive thing, which they just fucked up casting James Franco as Fidel Castro, right?
Don't.
But like if you're gonna make a movie about something like we've talked about it with like Yellowstone, when you're gonna have a bunch of characters of a certain nationality, they should be those characters. We're at the point now where there's enough actors in the world that we should be able to hire the people that fit the nationality of the character. I think that should be a requirement these days. We're not in the 20s where you're going to hire somebody and have them do blackface, right? Like it doesn't make sense anymore. So hire somebody that fits the part the right way. Because she's definitely, I mean, her last name is it Mid Thunder?
Yep.
So that's pretty fucking Native American.
Coda Beaver's his brother.
Yeah, she's a mix. Like I did look her up. She's not 100% Native American, but I think that's fine. I think it's that's an okay. I think she looks the part. She has Native American blood like that. It's that to me is still inclusive. Like she didn't have to be born on a reservation and live there her whole life.
And it seems like, and I could be wrong, they mentioned the Comanche tribe. They're very careful to say they're Comanche. When they talk Comanche, I haven't seen anything online yet where people are in an uproar because they got it wrong. It looks like they got buy-in from the Comanche tribe.
Exactly. I feel like because there's a full dub of it in Comanche where they don't speak English at all, to me that says they tried. Right.
I feel like
they put forth the effort there.
And so I kind of respect that level of it. So that kind of aspect of it being said, it's just a fun action flick. Like it's just fun. It's fun in the Predator vein. Like they didn't do anything too serious with it, which is fun. I didn't expect anything too serious with it. I didn't want anything too serious with it. It's a fucking alien that comes down from outer space to hunt shit, and it saves skulls, and it's stuff fighting back against it. That's all I want. I don't and it was perfect because it gave me that. It is very beautifully filmed.
Agreed.
Yeah, the cinematography was amazing.
Like there are some shots in there. Like I loved all the overhead work when they're racing through the grass. I thought that looked really, really good. So here's a fun little tie. And this is why I asked about watching the thing. So the pistol that she has is the same pistol that the Predator gives Danny Glover at the end of Predator 2.
Okay.
The only reason I completely remember that is because I watched this with the 15-year-old wasn't home, but I watched it with the 10-year-old, and she dug the shit out of it.
I believe that.
She thought it was awesome. It was her first Predator movie. But what I wanted to kind of prepare her, because we watched the trailer and it looked kind of scary. So I was like, hold on. Yeah, it's scary, but not really. I look. And so we actually, just to save time, we just watched the last 20 minutes of the first Predator film. And then just because that's really all you really need to see.
No, I agree.
And then I just happened to have the other one there. So it was like something hit me in the head, and I was like, you know what? Hold on a second. Just because I just thought about this movie is supposed to take place in the 1700s, and I went and I scanned through to the end of the oh no, I wasn't looking specifically for that at first. I wanted just to show her what multiple Predators look like, because you only really see the one in the first one. But in the second one, you see there's that scene at the end when they're all on the ship, and there's 12 of them and shit. So I just wanted to see, look, they're all kind of different. There are these hunters to kind of put that spin on it for. She didn't give a shit. She was on board from the beginning. She loved it. She loved the Native American girl kicking ass. She is all. My little Stella, Soph loves it, but Stella is all on board for when a girl kicks ass. She is loves that shit.
And I like too, she kind of didn't kick ass for a while.
Correct.
She struggled a lot, which is good for any character. I think male or female. I don't think you should just go toe to toe with the Predator.
Not just struggle a lot, but then also later on in the film when she's fighting, they don't try and act like her smaller stature isn't somehow a hindrance. Like she doesn't try to hold her own ever really toe to toe
Yeah, she has to
with
be
the predator.
smart.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
outsmarts him
Her,
at the end. Like that's
exactly. And that's and I love that instead of her suddenly being able to, sweep the predator's leg out from under him somehow with a
Yeah.
spinning, because that stuff happens sometimes, and I'm just like, okay, like I get it. I'm suspending my disbelief that there's aliens coming from outer space. I'm suspending my disbelief. I'm like, that girl is like 5'2", a buck 10 soaking wet. You're really trying to tell me that like she's going to kick the leg out from underneath?
It's not coming to
7-foot
fisticuffs with
monster?
the
No, it's not. I love all the interaction with her and her brothers. I thought that was great. But anyway, to get to that, so I saw the pistol and I was like 17, 16, and I saw the name. I was like, holy shit, this movie takes place in the 1700s. Like I remember seeing that in the bloop, and then it comes on as sure as shit. It's got the same name and everything. I was like, oh, cool. And so that's also kind of what got me excited at the end. This is why I said when you watch all the way through the credits, it like the credits do like this little animated replay of the entire movie as if they were like, drawings on hides that that Native Americans would have used to like preserve history or tell a story or something. And the very last one that they get to is predator ships coming back down from the sky.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, cool. I'm on board with this. Give me more of this Comanche tribe versus the predators. Like this was, I absolutely loved it.
I love the idea because when we had the original, you had, commandos going up against like mercenaries, dudes that are trained, but like there's something special about somebody in that time that understood the land, that understood their environment, that understood the animals, that understood everything, where that would be an advantage where they maybe don't have the physical advantage and the weapons that they had in the first Predator, where Schwarzenegger's fucking loaded up, right? Like this girl, she doesn't have anything. She got a fucking hand axe and a bow and arrow. And that was the one thing that was a little cheesy for me, like when she turned that into a fucking like weapon on a rope that she can always get right back into her hand without hitting herself in the face and killing herself, like without ever having done that.
I liked it.
I dig it, but it's not real. Like of the things that were of the way that it was set up, that was less realistic than other things.
I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean? You're not just gonna pull a string. Because there's one, especially near the end, where she pulls it back and it just goes right into her hand like fucking Thor. And I'm like, like it's not. But I'm drawing the line,
No, I get what you're saying.
It didn't piss me off.
Man.
She does no. But here's
she practices in like a day, like an hour.
Exactly, and only because there's the one one tribe member who makes a comment about her having to put a leash on her weapon. So I saw that, so I was like, okay. I loved, man, it was just fun. Yeah, it was just a fun little Predator movie. Like,
like the I can't talk. Did you like the little callback line? Like, as soon as like they're like, how do we know we can kill it? I knew it was gonna come. So if I was in the theater, everyone was like kind of groaned / cheered. It was both. I was kind of like, they did it. I was just kind of like, okay, that was cool, but I'm a little bit like.
I know the only way that would have been worse is if you had someone cutting firewood in the background and like someone handed her a log and was like, "Get to the chopper." Like that would have been the only worst one that they could have done from that. Really, but yeah, it was cool though. It was cool. It was a good line that was out there. Like I on one hand I almost wish they did have like the sage wise woman who was like, there ain't no killing what can't be killed kind of thing. Like it was good.
I also like is the fact that you just made me like it more, because I love it when movies that come out after something give nods to what came before. So it basically is saying Predator 1 and 2, in our opinion, are the only ones that matter, because we're doing the gun thing, and we nodded to like, well, a couple of things. Like I think even the makeup, and when she's all covered in the mud, and then it goes up against all that, the twigs and everything. I was like, that reminds me of of course the end with Schwarzenegger at the end. So there was a lot of callbacks to that shit. But no, I really, it makes me respect the film more that they had that attention to detail, because I do remember that scene where they gave him the gun, and that was mind blowing back then, because it means like, holy shit, like they've been around for a while. Like this is not just like, you know, these
Exactly.
motherfuckers have been watching Earth for a while, and that's what made the end of 2 so mind blowing. So that was a good call. That was a good notice, Pete. Props.
Yeah, I really, again, if you're, this is one of those, definitely, if you're a Predator fan, it's you should love this, because it's really cool. The Even though how short it is, the bear versus like
Oh my
Predator
God.
fight scene was so awesome. Even I love the idea that this was like, just in kind of hit, like in the technology that he did have with him at the time, that this would be, say, a lower level hunter who was going on some of his first hunts, because he got, remember, he keeps the rattler skull, he keeps the wolf skull, that when, and the wolf straight smells him and bites him in the leg and hurts him. And I was like, oh shit, the wolf got him, cool. And obviously superior hunter just, fucking skewers the thing, and, or no, the wolf, that's right, he slices, like, as they're running it was really fun. It was cool to see the Predator fight animals as well, because it really does lean into more of that whole, like, they're obviously the bad guy of the movie, but at the same time, there isn't, like, they're not evil, they're
Yeah.
just intergalactic hunters. It's what their species does. They're not coming to take over our planet. They're just looking for people with some cool ass skulls that will fight back, and they're taking that shit and they're rolling. That's like, I like that idea, because there's no real malicious intent behind it.
Yeah.
One
That
thing I
is
love. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead with yours. Go ahead.
Okay, really quick. One thing I love though, because I'm always going to be like calling shit out, and maybe I'll say it. So the scene where he picks up I think it's the bear, and holds it over his head, and then the blood's dripping all over him, so you kind of see it. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm gonna send a picture from Evangelion. Because what the Evangelion does that shit when it kills like one of the angels and the blood comes down. So I'm like, yo, I think the fucking directors saw that shit and wanted, because it's literally, that's a mighty scary moment when like the Evangelion does that, because it's like the Evangelions, not a spoiler, they're alive, dude. Like they're not just robots, like they're fucking alive. So when they go berserk, they just kill motherfuckers, and it's just like, what the fuck are we piloting here? Like, anyway, I just love that scene. I'm going to text it to you guys, and maybe you can throw the image in the podcast. That's all I had to say. Kevin, is all you, baby.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that, the one thing that I did struggle with, and maybe it's just because it was made for Hulu, was some of the CGI was a little weak. Like, it's nitpicking, right? Like it didn't take me out of it. I didn't hate it, but with technology where it's at, I do expect things to be better. But again, maybe because it was made for Hulu and made on a budget, you do have to put all that money into the Predator. Like he's where the money's at.
Well, I was gonna say, what's CGI? Because to me, I like, at least
everything with the bear. Everything with the bear.
Okay, I'll give you
a
that.
couple of shots of the wolf.
Okay, yeah, no, I did notice that the wolf, comparatively, but because I thought actually what they did with the, it was nice because he didn't have the same technology, so we didn't get to see. No, we did see some infrared stuff. That's right. Never mind.
Yeah, we saw a little bit.
Yeah, but I did like how he had like the basic mask on, but the cloaking device that they had him, I thought that was all done very, very well this time. Like it's the best it's appeared so far. And like I said, I've watched all of them, including the newer Predator movie and the newest AVP movie. And this is probably the I think the coolest Predator that we've seen today. Maybe some of the weapons a little less than. Like I said, I know I think I said it the last time. It's a shit movie, but honestly, watching Alien versus Predator, the first one at least, the second one isn't that bad. Honestly, it's really not that bad, especially if you've watched the first one, because it ties right into the second one. But the first one's kind of cool because there's he makes a weapon and shield for her. Like the Predator, like the thing you get with their society definitely is like a game recognized game. on this. Like, and that's like with the Danny Glover thing, with the thing. Like, I know they're showing that the aliens are coming back, but here's the thing. I'm not 100% sure that the predators are necessarily coming back to with malicious intent. Maybe they're coming back just to retrieve his body, as they would. You know, they're like I don't like. I'm very. That's why I'm hoping there's more, because they've
You know
they've
what?
set
I
this
just
up like this.
realized I think what they should do, like, it's so formulaic, but maybe do some samurai shit, or do some, like, just go to other parts of the world, other cultures, and have that happen. You know, like, I think that could be fucking cool.
Well, see, so that's okay. So it's interesting you say that, because that is more or less, in some ways, the plot of the movie Predators,
Okay.
where the predators, like, they kidnap humans of several different, you
Okay.
know, and put them on a planet. I would actually love. It sounds stupid, like, to say it out loud, but I think that would actually be dope if you did like Predators Through Time, where somehow there was some sort of time device and the predators like corralled all these, you know, like a samurai from one, you know, from one time, a gunslinger. Like, I would love some goofy shit like that. Like, I think we've lost in a lot of these action movies that have come out. A lot of the fun has gone away from it to some degrees, where that Marvel has picked back up. Like,
Yes.
the 80s action movies, they were all fun.
Commando.
Yeah, like, no, exactly. It's a horrible piece of shit movie, but it's fun. There's big loud explosions, there's gun shots, you know,
And
there's a
one-liners, dude. Blow up some steam, man.
constantly. You know, there's
That's
a
in the
constant building of the pace. Like, this is just a fun movie all the way around. It is not a cinematic masterpiece. Um I don't know, and I think this is probably why it is Hulu and not in theaters, is that exact CGI thing that you said, Kevin. I think it was partially a budget thing. I'm I would hope that Prey here, like this, would actually lead almost to, Andrew, exactly what you're talking about. But I'll tell you what, because this was a nice, tight 90-minute movie. They told the whole story that they needed to tell in 90 minutes, and they did it well. That was the other thing that really impressed me about this. Like, it's been a while since I've seen a 90-minute movie that didn't feel like they cut it down to 90 minutes. Like, this movie felt like, nope, we're going to tell you this story, and we're going to tell you this story in 90 minutes. We don't need 2.5 hours. We don't need 2 hours. All we need is that old school action film, 90 minutes. Half hour first act, half hour second half, half hour third act. And it works. Like, it's all consistent. I don't feel like they cut anything out of it that would have been, you know, that otherwise would have been important plot stuff. I know I keep saying that it's just a fun movie, but that's really the only word that I really have to describe it, other than it's just fun. Like, it's not deep. There's no overarching allegory of anything. There's, you know, it's the Predator, but it's a different setting. I love the way she, like, kicks the shit out of the couple of fur traders.
That was the best part. I was just gonna say, like when she goes rescue her dog,
I was
and then
loving
even
that.
when, like, after she literally kicks all their asses, it wasn't corny when she's like, yes, like, you know, she literally was just like it was adrenaline. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
who else is out here? Who else is out here? And then when she realizes, then she calms down. I was like, that I might go back and watch that scene, because the fight choreography of that was, I bought all of it.
The other thing too is that I've been saying when you said it, but you know, you said game recognizes game, right? For a while, the Predator is completely ignoring her.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's
all the other male hunters of her tribe.
Yeah, like he's just like, you're not what I'm hunting, because I don't see you as a threat right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so he goes after everything else. And the thing that fucking kills him is the thing that he underestimated. Right. Like, you know, which makes sense. It's one of those things that I think would happen. Like, when you underestimate something, that's when you fail, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to take everything at full value, and she takes advantage of that, and she outsmarts him. Like, that's the thing too. She doesn't outmuscle him. We talked about that. She fucking traps him in a mud bog and fucking drowns his stupid ass. Like, she's like, die, dude.
Which
You know,
actually, you talked about how there's nothing deep or allegorical or whatever, but that's just it. I think that if I was a girl or a woman, whatever, and you know, one of the things that you're constantly being done is underestimated. And you know, me being even a quiet person in general, soft spoken, like I know I've been underestimated, you know, but trust me, I have fucked shit up in my life, especially when it comes to sales. So it's like, good. I'm glad you underestimate me, because guess what, motherfucker? You know, like I'm gonna fucking fuck your shit up, and you know what happened to you. You know, like you don't even realize that I'm killing you. I love when she said that shit, man.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
you know. So no, I loved it. I you know, it's funny. You kind of changed my mind, Pete, because literally as I was both of you, as I was scrolling through my feed, as I do, everybody in my feed was like, fucking Predator, man, hell yeah, like they all loved it. So my expectations were actually pretty sky high. So when I saw the film and I was like, okay, the brother dies, like that was what I'm talking about. Color by numbers, come on, man. Like we knew he was gonna, like, do something different. Like don't just like, oh, it's on my time to die now, I'm gonna die. Like, but whatever. The movie's about her, I get it. But the fact is, yes, I do think the message is, it is okay if you're underestimated. Believe in yourself, train your fucking ass off, use your brain, and fucking win. And that's what she did. Because he even said, like, the beginning of the movie, I'm gonna go after my Kobe, whatever the fuck it is. Like, that's my hunt. And that we knew right away that was gonna be, the Predator was gonna be her hunt. And she ended up, you know, achieving her goal. I think from an allegorical perspective, the movie succeeded wildly in that respect.
I love when she dumped the head on the ground in front of her parents too. That was some shit. And then they were like, "Well, she's the war chief now."
Yes.
Well,
Like
it's
that
because
was
like literally everybody underestimated. Everybody told her she couldn't do it. You know what I mean?
Even her mom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a good, it was a good flick for what it was. Like, you're not going to go in and be like, God, I can't wait for this to get nominated for an Oscar. Like, that's not
no.
what you're watching, right? But like,
No.
when you look at it from the perspective of an action movie, with a story, like the story is good, the action was good. You know,
Although, no, I could say honestly, I would, if, I mean, it's obviously a long shot, you know, way
cinematography.
out there. Cinematography, I really do
It
think
was pretty.
that was, there were like, there's some phenomenal camera work in this movie, and it is all exterior day and night shooting. And
Mhm.
I loved all the scenes that they did by torchlight. Like it was dark. It was
Yeah.
nice. Like they didn't try to do that thing that you'll see a lot of times in the movie where you're shooting through a blue filter, you know, so you see it better. Like I'm sure they're, you know, they obviously put it through some filters to make it work better and everything else, but like they were there by torchlight. Like there were moments that I was like, oh, this is like could be this, like when she's standing there looking out into the darkness and there's just the torch and you're like, oh shit, like there could be fucking anything out there right now that she just can't see that far out there. And they didn't try to do one of those things also where it's like, oh, it just happens to be a full moon. So there's
Right. So
extra
you have
light on
enough
tonight.
bright light.
Like,
Yeah.
no, it's fucking dark. Like when she was fighting the mountain lion on the fucking tree, it was pitch fucking black and they shot it like that. Like it was out and open, so there was a little moonlight. I know I was like joking about that a second ago. So that they did give it just a little light, but it was dark. Like it wasn't like it was not as dark as say, you know, the second to last episode of fucking Game of Thrones, but it was dark.
So two things. I was just about to say that mountain lion scene like was great. It was fucking great. That's number one. Number two, I thought it was a cool touch to, I know a little bit of French, so I was able to discern some of it, but it was a
Same, yeah.
cool touch to like not translate any of that shit, so you're totally immersed in their world. And it actually,
Yeah.
because that was also something different. That was different because to actually portray like the Europeans as kind of alien, you know, and you know, because yeah, they were, to Native Americans. So this was really told from their lens. As a matter of fact, I can't think of another film that's ever done that. So it's funny how on this very podcast, like, see, that's the thing. I'm not a stubborn motherfucker. Like, you can change my opinion, just show me some shit or have me like think through some shit. Yeah, the film was a bit more profound than I gave it credit for in the beginning of this fucking discussion. Seriously, that was cool. That was a nice touch. Because at first I was a little annoyed, but then I was like, no. This is, you're supposed to. You're supposed to understand what the fuck's going on. They're just these like rough, like, potentially rapey, who knows, like motherfuckers.
Oh yeah. Oh
cutting
no.
chests.
I caught that
reminds
vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
It
reminds me of the opening scene of the 13th Warrior, where he's on the boat. And granted, they didn't make that transition because they didn't do it. But in the 13th Warrior, Antonio Banderas is playing a Middle Eastern guy, which is, again, funky ass casting, but whatever. So he gets kidnapped by the Vikings, and he's on the boat, and they're speaking in Norse, whatever, and he obviously doesn't speak the language. And so over time, as they're traveling across the ocean, they kind of travel, they make time go faster. But every now and then he starts to pick up a word, and then he picks up another word, and then he picks up another word. So, they're speaking their language, and then you get a word, and then you get 2 words. So by the time he gets to where they're going, he now speaks their language because he's picked it up, because he's worked with them to learn it. So I think that was a cool, similar thing where he or she had a night. So of course she's not going to learn French in a night. That'd be ridiculous. And then you have the one dude that has worked with other tribes and stuff and speaks like, he's just like 13 languages or something like that. And so he can talk to her, which is also cool because you do get a little bit of exchange there that you kind of maybe need between her and her captors.
It's smart though, because it's very simple. Like they don't. That is the other thing that I respected when they did that with her. Like when he's giving her directions on how to fire the gun and the things that he's interrogating her about, they're very basic questions. As in someone who doesn't speak the language fluently, they don't go to that thing, because you see that sometime in movies where it's like, oh, you speak Klingon? Well, yes, I can recite Klingon poetry if you really, it's like, no, fucko. Like you speak 13 languages, you're not going to speak perfect Comanche. Let's be real. You speak some Comanche, you speak a little bit of Sioux, maybe some Narragansett,
unless you're Han Solo and you speak Wookiee.
Well, who doesn't speak Wookiee? It's the droids that freak me out. How everybody knows what those fucking beeps mean. That's the thing that gets me. At least with the Wookiee, like I get it. R2 like fucking is just cursing and it's beeping away, and I don't know. But you should definitely see Prey, even if you've never seen a Predator movie.
It may almost be better if you haven't seen a Predator. Like I don't know.
Okay, so I'm almost willing to go out on a limb here and say this is possibly the best Predator movie that's been made.
Yeah,
like it's the first Predator movie was what it was. It's cool. It created the world that it lived in, and it introduced us to the thing. But it's a very 80s action movie, and it's funny because, like I said, my daughters haven't watched it yet, and my 15-year-old, and this should just also show you like how far movies have come in kind of educating kids. But I'm showing them that last 20 minutes of Predator, and my daughter goes, the first thing she says is, yeah, like that mud wouldn't be his body temperature in like 5 minutes once it dried out. And I was like, always been my biggest problem, but I'm suspending my disbelief because there's a big alien from outer space there, so why not? Sure.
Kids are so smart.
Well, that's the thing, and Opie has said it when he was on the show. You can suspend disbelief, but when it's still, the suspension has to be within the world that you've created. So
yeah, exactly.
If sure, the Predator came to Earth, but that doesn't change the things that exist on Earth, right? So, if that's what the rules are, then it makes sense. That's why I had the problem with the end of Old. Like, yes, these things happen, but it's still in our world. So, the things on the island, if everybody that went to that island, or sorry, that beach was surprised by the things that happened on the beach, then that's preposterous, right? Like it's something that shouldn't happen. So nobody would believe that somebody aged 50 years in a day. Like just nobody would ever believe that. Like there's nothing you could do to convince somebody besides send them down there to experience for themselves and hope they get out alive. if you're in that world and those rules apply to that world, they have to apply through the whole movie unless you have a catalyst for change to those rules.
I mean, I guess I was thinking more like, did they have they didn't have their IDs or anything? Like if they
even if they had their IDs, they'd be 6-year-old kids. Like no one's gonna look at a 50-year-old and be like, yeah, it's definitely you. Like, no.
Or you could probably now, like, I don't know why I'm defending this shit. Like you could probably do like some medical test or shit or DNA.
But who found them? Like they went to literally a scientific laboratory. So the scientists would be like, you know what, we're gonna take care of these two and then just fucking take it to an incinerator. Like fuck it.
No. Thudbutt rolled right up on Peter and just kind of smoothed out the wrinkles a little bit, and he knew that it was him.
Sure, but that was because he smiled. Like, come on, if we're gonna go with Hook, let's chill a little. That's a kids movie.
Thank you for getting
they were in Neverland.
That really was gonna sit there dead. Have you ever seen that, Andrew?
A long time ago.
I don't know
about because I think I told you guys I interviewed Rufio for one.
Yeah, Dante Basco.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's just anywhere that you've set up rules, those rules have to apply for the whole movie. What makes the movie preposterous? Which one?
I want to watch the movie. Fucking old, dude. Because I'm like, I want. Because I mean, you really hate that ending, and
it's literally the last like 3 minutes. It just doesn't make sense.
How scary is it though? Because
this is scary. What, old?
Yeah.
No.
Well, no, this is one because Stella, because it's one that we watched the preview for. Stella's like, "What is old?" And we watched the preview for it, and she's interested in watching it.
Yes, and no problem. There's
the scalpel.
No, understand. She's she's a typical second child now. She can
handle Predator. She can handle old.
Yeah,
for sure.
She's a typical second child now, where we've let her watch like stuff that we wouldn't dream of letting the first one watch.
The first one, yeah.
Where it is, like like the Chicago Med show, like she watches open surgery things. Like
she's fine. There's a few things in there where I'm like, I don't know how this works time wise. Like when they cut her open and she heals instantly, I'm like, is that like part of us to do the math and be like, well, if you age 14 hours, like, would it really heal this fast? But then I'm like, fuck it, that's okay. Like, let's, give it a little leeway there. It's just at the end, like that thing that's so preposterous. Like, you just can't come out and be completely ridiculous and have everybody be like, sure. Like I said, what really kills me is the woman that greets everybody with the drugs everybody. And she's like one of their head scientists. Like she comes out and these two people come up and they're like, we were 6 years old yesterday. And then she just goes, sits in the corner. She's like, fuck, we're found out. I'm like, no, if you've been murdering people like over and over, you're okay with just fucking killing these two people and moving on. Like there's no way.
You're not killing people. The drugs are killing the people. They're just letting.
I know the island's killing the people.
That's what I mean. The island's killing the people. You're studying it, but but it's like they're just letting it happen. I feel like they have a code. Like they don't kill themselves. They let the island do the shit.
Then put those two old fucks back on the island. And just.
But then that would have been a fun little like blip there in the end though. Where
actually, I would have liked that, Kevin. I would have liked that. It's like as a matter of that, you know what? You sold me too. That would have been a better ending. They they try to fucking explain everything, and they just get taken right back to the island and die. Like that's
the ending for me that would have worked would have been the Psycho ending. If at the very end they're like, sure, we're going to take you to talk to the authorities, shows them on the helicopter, all that shit's the same, and then at the very end, the last thing you see is them in a fucking psych ward because nobody fucking believes them because it's ridiculous, right? Because you have that moment where you're like, shit, these people got their validation, and then boom, the fucking depressing bullshit of life. And then somebody else knew us on the island.
I say take it even darker than that. If you're talking about a helicopter, and I haven't even watched the movie yet. You're talking about a helicopter in an island.
You haven't watched Old?
No, just
fucking ruined the whole movie.
No,
so
it's okay. It's okay. Like I said, because I'm going to watch it with the 10-year-old, so I'll be able to. I
want to know what you know what. She sounds smart. I want to know what she thinks of the last 2 minutes of that movie. Because I seriously think she's going to be like, why would anybody believe these fuckers? Like, it's
Well, no, I'm saying,
So
but that's what I'm saying. The way you're describing it, I'm like, let's just fly out over the ocean and just fucking double tap and have two bodies just fall out into the ocean at that
okay,
point.
but
And
okay,
then be
so
like, and then have the one nurse look to her and go, "Sometimes, Claire, you just have to do what you have to do," and just leave it like that. Like,
well, like, but okay, so taking what Andrew said, sure, they have a code, right? Like, yes, they're doing this, but these. So I don't want to give too
Dr.
much away 'cause you
Brenner
haven't
had a
seen it.
code.
Right, but like, there's a reason they're doing what they're doing. They're
Yeah.
doing it a certain way that isn't entirely unethical. Okay, so let's take that. So yeah, straight up murdering them would be fucked up, right? Because it's not what they do. They are scientists, and they're trying to do something right in a fucked up way. So just straight up murdering these two kids basically would be fucked up. But if they drop them off at an institution and be like, listen to the fucking ridiculous shit these kids are saying, these old fucking people are saying,
Yeah.
like, to me, the perfect ending to that, and the one that I feel like would be a more Jordan Peele kind of ending, would be like, yes, we're going to take you to the authorities,
And
then we see them in the
it sounds
institution,
good.
and then it comes back to the beach where there's a new set of people going through it
over again.
and basically saying there is no fix for this. So, like, to me, that's the better ending, not the happy ending.
And
like,
an indictment of Big Pharma.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I can't argue against that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I was happy. It was a happy ending, basically, and it felt like everything was up in a bow. And I remember thinking to myself as I watched the movie, "This is fucking deep." And even though you guys know me, I love Big Pharma. I don't care, but like, I'm like, this is anti-Big Pharma, you know. And like, you know, but then like, you know, whatever. I'm just like, it was deep and deep and deep and thought-provoking and weird, and then all of a sudden it was just like that, like kind of Hollywood perfect ending, like, okay, it's over, you know. And I was kind of like, okay, that was
maybe that's the new Shyamalan twist. He's like, a happy ending, you guys.
No, I think like we were talking about it earlier. I think that's the problem with M Night Shyamalan, is that because of the movies he made and that thing, the twist, that when it doesn't, you know, stick the landing, like you said earlier, that it's just bad. And it just killed, like, no matter what he's done through the rest of the movie, it's just bad.
Well, I mean, look at Signs. Signs was a fucking great movie
until the
and
very
then you
ending.
have this, and like,
Wait,
I see
actually,
people defending it every now and then.
Oh,
You've
no,
never seen Signs?
You should see it. You should see it. But it is, we won't spoiler it. It is, dude, it is a nice, taut, tense thriller.
Oh,
you are on board the whole way. And then you get to the last 5 minutes and you're like, fuck you.
So
really
actually,
is.
I have it literally. I think it's on Amazon Prime, so I actually have it like ready to go.
You
so
should
like,
watch that and tell me what you think of the ending, because like, I have seen people try to defend it, and I'm like, no, dude, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So I don't want to say anything else about it if you haven't seen it, but you should go watch Signs, because because it really is a fucking good movie.
Okay.
And the ending, you're like, what? Like,
and I'm not a big Mel Gibson fan, but I love him in this.
Okay, he's great. He's great.
It is, like I said, it is seriously a great movie until that last 5 minutes, and then like, it was the first time in a long time that I watched a movie, when I watched it, that I was like angry at the end.
For sure.
Because I was like,
for sure,
like, seriously, you're gonna take, like, and again, I don't want to spoil it, because I'm curious to see if you feel the same way. But I felt like you're gonna take me on this ride, and then that's how you're gonna end it. Like I said, it's the same thing, not as bad, like worse than, for me, The Village. Like, I was like, The Village was this really like this kind of psychodrama that was going on, and I was like, this is fucking like some weird Handmaid's Tale shit. What the fuck is going on in this village? This is all insane. And then she steps through the bushes and gets hit by a fucking station wagon, and I'm just like, suck it, that was stupid. What do you give me? Like, I like the idea, so I like, that's what I was trying to get across earlier. He stuck the landing with the idea of how it would have been, but the way he did it was just so bad. Like, I would have, Signs would have been, or not Signs, but The Village would have been cool for me, is if like she steps through the hedge, and instead of just like getting hit by a car and she's like on a highway, it's like Central Park. She's in the middle of a city somewhere.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
or like it was very much like a Truman Show kind of thing where they've been being observed and studied or something like that. Like that I think would have been a better thing. Like it tried to give us that cool little ending and it just did a shit job of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Signs, see it. I know we're telling you right now that it's got a horrible ending, but
no, I'm seeing it. I'm
because
it is
mother effer. Such a good movie through the whole thing.
I think that's what makes the ending so infuriating, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that you're just like,
it builds up. He builds up tension throughout this movie so well, and it gives you little bits of release here and there with a little bit of humor, but not enough that it goes all the way. You like laugh for a second, and then you get a couple of beats, and boom, then he hits you with something. You're like, oh shit, there was the jump scare that I was expecting to have. Like, and it's so you got a lot of cool shit like that, but the ending, good fucking Christ Almighty.
It's just not salvageable. Like it's so crazy to me that a movie can be so good and be butchered by like 3 minutes. Like it's wild to me, and it's a great cast. Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, the kids are good actors. Like everything about it, honestly, everything about it is so good.
And it's just
and it's just a conceptual problem at the end where you're like, where did your logic go? Like,
imagine this. Here you go. So it's the end of Infinity War, and you know what? God damn it, we've convinced Thanos that this isn't actually the way to go through the universe. But Scott Lang has turned around and he's going to snap everyone out of existence. Yeah. It's like that. Like you're like you've got this brilliant movie, and then
you know what it reminds me of? Another movie that pissed me off at the end, although I would say it was not as good of a movie as Signs before then, was War of the Worlds, the remake with Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
where he runs over the hill to die, but then at the end of the movie, he's back home in his brownstone, which somehow survived while every building around it was completely destroyed. I was like, oh my God, it's just so fucking, like, that wasn't necessarily bad concept. It was just so cliched that it was you're just like, oh.
And we get look, I mean, there's War of the Worlds. If you're going to remake that movie, you're going to do a War of the Worlds. It's great. Everybody already knows how it ends. Right. Like it's just the common cold. It's killed by the common cold. Like that's the whole thing. We get it. All right. It's 2022 now. Let's remake it. They got to get AIDS to kill the fucking aliens. Like it's got let's fucking
COVID took them down.
Exactly. But yeah, no, War is same kind of thing. Exactly. Like it's a really good remake of War of the Worlds, and then it gets to the end, and you're just like, really, bro?
Like like I said, when he comes walking out of the house after he ran over the hill to die, and that was like an emotional moment that you then undo because he's back at his house, which he didn't bother to look for his kids. He just went back to the house, which of course withstood this massive planetary attack while everything around it's destroyed. But his brownstone is like, he's like, guys, I even have running water and electricity. Let's have a Thanksgiving dinner. Like it's so dumb.
It's like, it's like you watch the first 3 minutes of Jupiter Ascending, and then people start talking, and like the rest of the 2 hours is just a horrible fucking waste. You're like, you should have just ended it with that 3 minutes and just be done with it. The dog-eared Channing Tatum, we didn't need that. I didn't need 2 hours of that. Didn't need it. Sorry.
Was that Wachowski's film, Jupiter Ascending?
No.
No, it was
no. She did the other one, or they did the other one that was the not Ender's Game, because Ender's Game was decent but a very problematic version of it if you like the book. But it what was that movie? Valerian and
that's right, Valerian, and the City of
Tomorrow. No, Valerian was actually by Luc Besson. That I remember.
Yes.
That's
Valerian
right.
was Luc Besson.
Actually, no. I'm sorry, not to be that guy, but no, it's a Wachowski film.
No, yeah, that's
which
what
one?
Jupiter Ascending.
Jupiter Ascending. Okay, Jupiter Ascending was Valerian. Oh, Luc Besson.
That was Luc Besson who did also The Fifth Element. So
the Fifth Element was brilliant.
Yes, it
was.
Valerian was. Valerian had the problem was Valerian had so much potential as a sci-fi film from the source material that they had. I read a little bit up on some of it. The concept is there. It was just poorly executed.
Yeah.
Jupiter Ascending was just a stupid fucking concept.
The Wachowskis, like I'm like, how do I keep getting funding for your films, you fuckers? Anyway, what was I gonna say? I actually
Matrix money.
It's gone now.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, no, it's gone. I forgot what I was gonna say, but I do remember thinking for War of the Worlds, I thought it was gonna be like a trilogy or some shit. So, but I guess, yeah, I didn't really like. I just thought it was gonna be a big block, but like whatever.
I would almost rather see a movie made today about the radio play of it, because the story behind the radio play is when that happened, people believed it.
Yes.
So I would rather just see that story
would actually
told.
be really cool, Kev. Like that would be a really dope movie.
Yeah, because it's hard to tell a good alien invasion story without a twist anymore. And if you're just going to replay the same twist, then you're replaying the same fucking story, and it's not that interesting anymore. Like, it would be a big visual,
it'd be
whatever.
Well, it'd be fun to remake it today, because it was a radio play like that. Now with social media and the way that would spread, and the device that you have for that, is that you would have aliens invading, and you would have people that didn't believe it, because the liberals are just spreading lies about the alien invasion, and you could make a War of the Worlds into an Invasion of the Body Snatchers like type film, and because of the way social media works, people don't believe it.
Brilliant.
And it winds up being the fucking lizard overlord that is behind it all anyway. Like that would be that would be interesting to watch,
and scary,
to flip it on its ear.
It's scary because, like, the thing is, I even, like, there was a thing on Monkeypox in my feed, and the comments section, dude, it was a dumpster fire. Like, literally over half of the comments were like, this is the government's next COVID-19, the next hoax. And these people are absolutely, like, they believe it. They're like, this is a hoax, just like COVID-19 was. Like, and I'm just like, wow, we fucking suck. What I was going to say was, I'd love to see maybe we do a Shyamalan show, because I remember even that there's a movie where there's an elevator, I think it's called Devil or something. I remember seeing that trailer in the theater, and we were all into it. But as soon as they said M Night Shayamalan, the whole theater is like, oh, there's literally all let out.
Okay, that was because that movie was coming out right after The Village, I think it was.
No, not The Village. No, it was The Happening.
Yeah.
The Happening is the one that killed him. The Happening was like the end of Shyamalan.
Mark Wahlberg smelling the killer flowers. Oh, that was so.
And didn't Shyamalan do a movie with like Will Smith and his fucking kid, and that one bombed too?
After Earth. After Earth, I think is what it's called.
I think, yeah. Well, it bombed. Well, that's okay. Here's
and then he did the Avatar, didn't he?
Yes, he did the Last Airbender movie, which that was from the minute they said that. Like when they said who was directing it, I was like, why? This is not the right guy for this.
After Earth actually made money.
No, it looked good. Okay. Like I actually wanted to see it, and I just never did.
Maybe we should check it out.
Yeah, I actually would be willing to check it out. I wonder if it's streaming anywhere. I can find out. I have justwatch.com on my phone. Boop, 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 boop.
This was a fun show, y'all. We told it tightly, and we're out.
After Earth 2013. It's not on anything. You can only rent it right now, unless you have Direct TV. But yeah, Shyamalan would actually be an interesting show to go and kind of rank his movies, because you'd have to watch Lady on the Water. But like, it's so interesting to see somebody. We actually talked about it. Like, you start making movies, and you get pigeonholed into making a certain type of movie if your first movie blows up. Like, being a nobody, you almost have an advantage because you can do whatever you want. As soon as you become that guy, you have to make that movie. And he hasn't really succeeded since the others.
See, that's the one way in which I would say Kevin Smith is kind of the biggest winner. when it comes to stuff like that, because he was pigeonholed into the idea of having to make like the slacker movies, like the Jay and Silent Bob. So there was no expectation of his other movies that he made, like The Tusk and Yoga Hosers and these other movies that he's made outside it. Dogma's fucking brilliant. That's so outside of. I mean, it's obviously a Kevin Smith movie when you watch it, you know, but it's such a outside of anything else that he's done in so many ways. But
I think him and Tarantino are like the same kind of guy, right? Like if you see a Kevin Smith movie and nobody tells you it's a Kevin Smith movie, you can tell by the dialogue. If it's a Tarantino movie, you can tell it's a Tarantino movie by the dialogue. And I would say the other one that you can always tell is Guy Ritchie, because I remember seeing the trailer for his King Arthur film. And it started without seeing anything. I was watching the trailer. I was like,
it's a Guy Ritchie movie.
Fucking Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
Which made no sense to me. I was like, there's no fucking way this is a Guy Ritchie. And then at the end, it's like a Guy Ritchie film. And I was like, fuck.
You just know, it's like Michael Bay.
Yeah. Some people just have their fucking signature. Yeah. Michael Bay, the slow motion scene with the fucking sunset. And you're like, oh, there it is. Or J.J. Abrams with lens flare.
There's lens flare.
You're like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, you're like, I know who made this film. It's fun. And it's funny how there really are signatures like that and things. But yeah. Shyamalan signature is a shitty ending.
Well, and with that, we'll follow suit and give you the twist and give you a nice shitty ending here. Listen, subscribe, comment, interact. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Maybe I'll have the audio updated like I was supposed to. I just haven't yet because I'm such a fucking slacker.
You're only like 12 episodes behind.
No, it's not 12. It's like 6. Ish. Which reminds me, I'm going to need your audio for this one.
Of course you are.
Well, no, I didn't set up my stuff because I had when Christy was coming home with the girl. It was just easier for Stella because I'm out of my garage. Anyway, like, subscribe. Love you. Love your show. Thinking about being you for Halloween. Bye-bye.
Love you.
We were talking about music and relevance or whatever, and I'm like, well, what about like fucking what's his name? Like you said, there's really no like real R&B singers anymore. I'm like, what about fucking Bruno Mars? And he's like, and he's old, you know. And I was like, ugh, like hurt a little bit. I'm like, he came out like in 2010. It's like, yeah, dude. Like, you know how many? When you talk about how high school, like, there's high school is 4 years. How many fucking cohorts have happened since 2010? And I'm like, damn, dude, we're really old. Like, yeah, dude. Like, 2010 is not ancient to me, but it's fucking ancient. Like, as far as pop music goes, 2010 is ancient. And I remember actually at UCSB, the music teacher in 1995 was talking about, this is the sound of today, and she puts on Motown Philly by Boyz II Men, and I remember being disgusted because I was like, dude, that's from 91.
So you're like, that's the sound of 5 years ago.
You know, I was just like, yeah. So I was like, so I'm like, okay, so but I, in my heart of hearts, I personally feel, I could just be my age, but I don't know if it's my age. I don't know if 2010 and 2022 music is really that different.
Dude, it's because we're getting older, because I was thinking about this in a different context, but I was like thinking about it like watching Love Island with my wife, and the girls are all like 20, 23, whatever. And like in my mind, I'm like, that girl's really pretty, right? Because as long as they don't look 16, you know, when they look like they're in their 20s, I'm like, oh, they're really pretty, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, wait, I'm 45. Like there's no, like, I'm way older than these people.
Yes.
Like way older. So like you watch the world and we don't feel like we look as old as we do. And sure, you look at pictures of people that were 45 when we were 20.
Yeah.
And they don't look, I feel like 45-year-olds
are not
20 years ago didn't look as young as we do now, but like we're fucking old, you know? Like,